I've got every faith that any other locomotive that is designed like this will take the HM7000 decoder, just with the removal of the power bank and speaker sockets off the side. A big hello to you, so great to see you, and I hope I find you well. I'm Jenny Kirk, welcome you up here to Weir Yard. And today we're back talking about the Hornby HM7000 range of decoders. Now you might remember that we did some Will It Fit videos a little while back, and certainly with the 21 pin version what we showed was that it would fit every single one of those 21 pin equipped models, and we tried it actually in some of the notoriously small and pokey ones and found that not only was there enough space for the decoder but for the speaker installation as well, and we dispelled a few myths along the way. We also did a video on the Next-18 version, and that was a little bit of a different story, and there's reasons for this that I will go into in a moment. But what we actually found is that in my entire locomotive fleet I could find 3 locomotives that it would fit. Now we did cheat a little bit with the Planet Industrial's Victory class, but it was just about 2mm square of metal that was non-structural, non-visible, and it would have been impolite not to fit that to that locomotive, and it's been an amazing performer ever since. We also had the Hornby TT range, and of course that's not unexpected because those are the models that this decoder was designed to fit. What surprised me was that actually quite a small N-gauge model was the third one that it would fit into, and it kind of dispels the myth that small models you're not going to fit that decoder into. Not true. It fitted into that Class 28 Metrovic perfectly, used the onboard speaker, and was actually quite a reliable performer. But there were a few other locomotives that it was close but no cigars, and I said at the time that if you were daring enough to remove the power pack socket and the speaker socket, which protruded right at the edge of the board, then it might be possible to fit it into a whole slew of locomotives that are designed to be DCC fitted via a daughter board that fits inside the smoke box. Now Hornby have very kindly sent over a couple of sacrificial Next-18 decoders and basically told me, go on, have a go, see if you can make them fit. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing. But a lot of people have said, well, why are these decoders so large? And Hornby, in fairness to them, have said that this is actually down to availability of components. At the moment, it's really difficult to get the components that you want. The electronics components are in high demand and short supply, and they just couldn't get the smaller versions of what they needed. And that meant the board had to be a bit bigger than they were hoping for in order to accommodate the Bluetooth antenna and a few other components. But what they have said is that there is a Mark II version ready to go as soon as they can source those smaller components. But for now, thanks to them sending over 2 decoders, which we don't mind chopping about a bit, we're going to see if some of those extra models that were close but no cigar can actually be made to take the HM7000 installation. So come with me in association with Trainomatic, makers of DCC decoders and accessories that are designed by enthusiasts for enthusiasts. Find the full range available to order now at tramfabrique.co.uk. Additional support comes from...
This is Clark Railworks, and this is what we do. You'll know us from Ellis Clark Trains, and you'll get the same friendly expertise with us too. We've got a huge range of pre-owned model railways from all your favourite manufacturers, and maybe some you hadn't heard of before. It's the place to come for quality. We don't stock substandard models, and everything we sell is fully tested and photographed by model railway experts. No matter whether you model double O gauge, N, HO or more, we have sought after models from all around the world with new listings added every weekday. Check out what's available now at clarkrailworks.com and don't miss out on your latest loco.
I have to admit that I am a little bit of a fan of the HM7000 system of decoders. I find them really great value. They're around half the price of other makes of decoders, and you've got ultimate flexibility through the app of being able to, for absolutely free, add extra profiles to that decoder at will from an ever-increasing library. The Bluetooth control as well I found quite useful on my garden railway, and certainly if you don't want to use the Bluetooth, you don't have to. You can use them as an ordinary DCC decoder. But today we're going to see whether we can expand the number of potential locomotives that we can fit these into with just a really easy, non-destructive modification to the decoder. And this is something that I've really wanted to do for some time, and now we can. Also, as a big favour, don't forget to tickle that like button, share this video, and subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell to be notified of all future videos. You can also find us on Patreon and help support the channel to keep making the videos that you want to see, with a number of different tiers of rewards for doing so. And thank you ever so much, everybody who does do that. But on with the review, and let's take a close look. Can we make it fit? When I did the Will It Fit video for the HM7000 range of decoders, one of the things that struck me with the Next-18 one, which a lot of people had complained about not fitting in locomotives, was that apart from the fact that I did find locomotives that it would natively fit into, and I've been told since then by other users that there are a few more Next-18 equipped locomotives that natively they will fit into, there were a number of locomotives, actually fairly common ready-to-run locomotives, that it was very close. And I did say at the time that if you were daring enough to remove the power pack and the speaker connection, the sockets that are actually on the boards, I reckoned you could get it in them. And at the time I didn't want to risk it because I was going through a lot of locomotives, and subsequently Hornby have very kindly provided some more of the Next-18 format decoders, and I've been told to go nuts and just see whether I can make them fit by removal of non-critical components such as those sockets which are just soldered onto the board. And one of the things that is included in the Next-18 specification is that there are speaker connectors through the socket, so you can then solder elsewhere a speaker in, so you don't need that socket to be able to get the sound out from these locomotives. And indeed, when I did the fit in that Planet Industrial's Victory class, I used the onboard speaker and didn't need to plug in the Hornby speaker. So what are these locomotives? Well, if you remember from the video, we had the GWR Mogul, the GWR Manor, and the D-Class. Now all three of these are from the Dapol stable, and they all three feature a Next-18 decoder socket that goes in through the smoke box door onto a removable daughter board. So they are, in the usual run of things, quite easy to DCC fit, but the decoder itself, you can see that we have these two sockets on the side, and they were just proving a little bit too high right at the edge of the board to enable them to go into these locomotives. So I'm just going to open up the front of this particular one just to show you how. Now I can quite readily separate tender and locomotive there. It just makes things a little bit easier, and I'm just going to very carefully remove the smoke box door. And you can see inside there we've got the daughter board, and it does feature a speaker enclosure underneath that does use the connections through the socket, but it also has an additional speaker connection in the tender. And I would actually say that the tender is probably your best bet to get a bigger speaker enclosure if you're going to use the Hornby decoder speaker. Now let's just very carefully, now there is a kind of a little hole there which allows you to slide this out, and that's the daughter board in question. And if I just take this decoder off and plug in the Next-18 decoder, just make sure that that is in and on, what you can see is that the decoder itself is about the same width as the daughter board that plugs in, and on the underside it comes with this speaker enclosure. If I pull that off, we've got these solder-free tabs, and the speaker that's designed to go in here just presses onto those. If you really needed to, you could solder, but my thoughts are that this is probably a little bit too fiddly for the enclosed speaker. So what I would recommend is to put that into the tender. Now the speaker connections do go across the tender connection, and inside here there is quite a large area that we can add another speaker, and it will hopefully work just fine. Unfortunately, with the board on top, it just feels like it is catching on these plugs. The actual board width itself, I'll just line that up, it does feel like that could go in if we were to just remove these connectors. And thanks to Hornby, that is exactly what I'm going to try and do now. Now it's pretty easy to remove these connectors, and to do this it is simply a case of get your sprue cutters, and then you're grabbing the plastic part of these connectors. In fact, let's start with that one, and you're just going to pop it forward, just bend it, and it will snap clear. And what you see on the board there is there's no damage whatsoever. Again, let's do that again, grip, and just bend the board. You'll hear it pop, and just waggle it backwards and forwards a couple of times, let metal fatigue take off those connectors at the side, and there you have it. Now we've got a couple of bits proud there, the way it's just snapped off. Just going to trim and trim, and there you have it. So we've removed those sockets, and we're going to assume that a locomotive of this size does not need a power pack. Just quite honestly, for pretty much most people, it will run perfectly reliably with no power pack. This locomotive has been running perfectly reliably with no power bank or power pack or stay alive at all off that decoder, so I've got every faith it's going to do the same on this. With those two removed, what we're going to do is reconnect this to the daughter board, and this is the moment of truth. It's going to be a tight fit. What we're going to do is line up the daughter board, and I can feel that's actually just sliding on in there, and that's gone all the way in, and there we have it. So DCC fitting this manner from Dapol with the Next-18 decoder. It does come quite far out at the front, but it doesn't stick out of the smoke box. So what I'm going to have to do is actually just cut a little bit of a notch into the bit on the smoke box door, I think. That is a definite prospect. We can make that fit. I've just cut a couple of notches just in the flange that runs behind, and just filed them back flat with the dish of the smoke box, and that gives us a notch that just grips around where the Next-18 decoder just sticks out ever so slightly. Push that in, and there we go, all back together. Let's have a look inside the tender. There are 4 screws, let's take those off, and one final screw and the tender top just slides free, and inside you'll see this large speaker enclosure with a set of wires already there. You just need to remove the heat shrink off the end, solder these to the speaker that comes with the HM7000 decoder. And what we can assume is, as long as the speaker enclosure is below the actual enclosure inside there, and there you have it, that is the perfect height, that is flush with the top. So this speaker enclosure size is a perfect fit in there. And let's just double check with one of the larger speaker enclosures. Is this something that would fit? Oh, just slightly too big, so we can't use this. It's going to be this size enclosure, glued in there with the base on, speaker attached, solder up the speaker to the wires that are already present, fold any extra wires into place around there. You can put a little bit of something like tape over the top just to keep that nice and neat, and then the entire assembly will slide back together and be absolutely perfect. So that's great. We know that this locomotive is definitely a perfect fit. The speaker installation in the tender is really easy. We've got these pre-tinned wires there, which I've just removed the heat shrink. I'm going to use a very small amount of solder and a pair of tweezers, and let's just make sure that we get those in there. Make sure that's taken, and the other, again, a little bit of heat and solder. Make sure that that's taken as well. Just put the soldering iron to one side, and make sure we can tuck these wires down, and if we need to, a small amount of Captain tape just to make sure that nothing can move in here. I'm going to put that just across this part of the enclosure and just make sure that nothing can shake loose. And there you have it, a really easy installation. And this will give the speaker output all the way through, and that's exactly what we want. The next locomotive that I'm going to look at is the D-Class, again from Dapol, and again we've got this mechanism whereby we can separate locomotive and tender quite easily. Has the extra speaker socket in the tender, and we've got a daughter board just inside here, and let's just see what we can do. There is actually a reasonable amount of space in here. As you can see, there's a stay alive that was fitted into this locomotive because I had it available rather than because the locomotive needed it. We've got the same daughter board going on in here. Just going to take the decoder and stay alive assembly out. We've got our decoder with the speaker and power bank sockets removed again. This is the same one that we had in the manor. I'm just going to very carefully put that in. Again, you can see we've got the speaker sockets on the underside if you were to need them. And this actually feels like this decoder is narrower than the daughter board in this locomotive, and that, I don't know whether that bodes well or not. We seem to have a different shape here and there. I can feel that we're definitely there, we're clear, and push that in, and once again we've got pretty easy fit there, and we're just going to need to perhaps cut a little bit of a notch, just like I showed you with the Manor, although actually that's a different design. That's a much flatter back, so I don't think there is any adjustments going to be needed. So let's just, there we have it. It's a perfect fit without any modification required to the back of that smoke box door, and if anything, I would say that that's probably a lot easier than what we had with the Manor. Again, we can put the speaker in the tender, and that's a perfect fit. The final locomotive that I've got here to look at is the Mogul, again a Dapol product, and just going to pull off the smoke box door, and I have actually already fitted this. Again, no modification was needed. It just slid straight on in, no problems whatsoever. Speaker in the tender, just as you saw before, really easy fit, and that's 3 for 3, and I've got every faith that any other locomotive that is designed like this will take the HM7000 decoder, just with the removal of the power bank and speaker sockets off the side. Then all you have to do is make use of the pre-fitted speaker connections, and it will quite happily drive those through the connector. Well, as you saw in today's video, just a minor modification allows these decoders to fit into a whole stable of different types of locomotives that are on the market. So we got it into the Dapol Mogul, the Dapol Manor and the Bachmann D-Class, and I've got every faith, even though I don't own one, that it will also fit the D1 class, which utilises a similar interface. Now, only one of those locomotives required remedial work to the back of the smoke box door. That was actually quite easy to do and didn't affect the way it looked on the outside, just gave us a little bit of extra room to be able to put that smoke box door back on, and as you saw, it was really easy to do. I've also been told that the Northeastern Railway rail car from another manufacturer is a native fit for this Next-18 HM7000 decoder, so the pool of potential locomotives is still increasing, and I'm sure that there may well be others out there that it can be fitted into without really needing to do any modifications. And that said, removing those sockets was ridiculously easy. Gripping hold of it and just gently rocking it free, it just comes away cleanly. There's no messing about, no need to be too careful, and it really does make all the difference. And I'd love to hear from you what you thought about this. Is this perhaps a little modification that you're now going to look to do for your own range of locomotives that you think this will fit into? And do report back down below if you find any other locomotives that this Next-18 equipped HM7000 decoder does fit into, either natively or with this minor modification, just to remove the extra height that was on the edge of the decoder that just sometimes stops it from fitting in. The other thing to remember as well is that both Next-18 and 21-pin interfaces do feature the pins for the speaker connection through the socket. The speaker socket that's on the side of these HM7000 decoders is really just there for convenience and isn't essential on those two formats. And as we've shown with this, we can mount the speaker in the tender utilising the wires that are already pre-wired through there, and everything works just great. And there is a mentality that says, oh, we should fit a power pack or a stay alive or a power bank to every single locomotive, and actually some locomotives don't particularly need it, and that is the case with the 3 locomotives which I did a test fit today. With a long wheelbase and tender pickups, they actually just don't need that extra little bit of go about them. So save yourself a few quid and save those power packs for maybe something like your Planet Industrial's Victory class, because that locomotive really does work well with the installation that we showed in the last Next-18 decoder fitting video. But until next time, please like, share and subscribe, and check us out over on Patreon, where you can support the channel to keep making the videos that you want to see, with multiple tiers of rewards available. You can also become a channel member and get extra different rewards too. Don't forget to check out our full merch store just down below under the video, where you can buy your Gronk It Up t-shirt, Terrier Fest, and of course the ever popular Billy's replacement speakers. But until next time, you take great care of yourself. Happy projects, happy modelling. Bye for now. Today's video comes in association with Trainomatic, makers of DCC decoders and accessories that are designed by enthusiasts for enthusiasts. Find the full range available to order now at tramfabrique.co.uk. Additional support is provided by...
This is Clark Railworks, and this is what we do. You'll know us from Ellis Clark Trains, and you'll get the same friendly expertise with us too. We've got a huge range of pre-owned model railways from all your favourite manufacturers, and maybe some you hadn't heard of before. It's the place to come for quality. We don't stock substandard models, and everything we sell is fully tested and photographed by model railway experts. No matter whether you model double O gauge, N, HO or more, we have sought after models from all around the world, with new listings added every weekday. Check out what's available now at clarkrailworks.com, and don't miss out on your latest loco.
I'd like to thank everybody over on Patreon, and an extra special huge thanks goes out to our Patreon heroes. Without you guys over on Patreon, we really wouldn't be able to keep making the video content that you see on this channel. And don't forget that you can also head on over to patreon.com/Jennifer Kirk and check out the different tiers of rewards. Thank you so much. You are absolute legends.